Chosen one, they've been smiling in your face for months now, and every single one of those smiles has been a costume. You know the ones. I'm so proud of you. You look amazing. I love this new you. Said with a grin that never quite reaches the eyes. Said a beat too fast, like it was rehearsed in the mirror before they even walked into the room. And you believed it, because why wouldn't you? You weren't looking for enemies in friendly faces. You were just living your life, doing the work, becoming someone you actually like waking up as. But behind that smile, something else has been building. Something smaller and uglier than they'll ever admit out loud. Jealousy. Not the loud kind, not the kind that throws things or picks fights. The quiet kind. The kind that smiles while it calculates. The kind that claps for you in public and unravels in private. Here's the part they didn't plan for. That kind of jealousy doesn't stay hidden forever. It leaks. It shows up in the pause before they compliment you, the joke that's not really a joke, the way they bring up your past, like it's still your present. And chosen one, all of that leaking has been building towards something, a moment, a reveal, the kind of exposure that doesn't need you to say a single word, because the truth does the talking on its own. That's what we're breaking down today. Not just the fact that they've been faking it, but why your glow-up specifically was the thing that broke them, and what's coming for them now that the mask is finally slipping in front of everyone watching. Because make no mistake, this isn't a small shift. This is the kind of turn where the people who smiled the widest start sweating the hardest. This is the kind of turn where every backhanded compliment gets replayed in a new light and suddenly makes sense. This is the kind of turn where you stop wondering if you were imagining things and start realizing you had it right from the very beginning. Before we get into it, hit that like button and subscribe, not as a favor, but as a way of feeding this message back into the current it came from, so it reaches the next chosen one who needs to hear it before their mask fully comes off. Now let's move forward. Number 1, the smile that's been hiding something else. Funny how the people clapping loudest for your comeback are the same ones hoping you never finish the job. Let's start where it actually started, not with the compliments, but with what came before them. Before you started glowing, before people noticed the shift in your energy, your skin, your posture, your whole presence, they didn't need to smile at you like that. There was nothing to compete with. You were just there, familiar, easy to place in the story they told about themselves. Then something in you changed. Slowly at first, the kind of change only you could feel. Then all at once, the kind of change everyone else could suddenly see. And that's when the smiles started getting bigger and somehow colder at the same time. You felt it, haven't you? The compliment that lands wrong. The "wow, look at you," that sounds more like a diagnosis than a celebration. That's not your imagination playing tricks. That's the exact moment jealousy learns to wear a mask, because open jealousy gets called out fast, but a smiling jealousy, that gets to hide in plain sight for months, sometimes years. Imagine a house with a crack running quietly down the foundation. From the outside, the paint looks fresh, the porch looks fine, everything looks handled. But underneath, something's shifting, and eventually, the crack doesn't stay hidden. That's what their smile has been, a fresh coat of paint over something that's already breaking apart. They tell themselves it's support. They tell themselves they're happy for you. But watch what happens the next time you win something they secretly wanted. Watch the half-second delay before the congratulations. Watch how fast the subject changes back to them. That delay, that redirect, that's the crack showing through the paint. And you're not wrong for noticing it. You were never wrong for noticing it. Chosen one, that unease you've been sitting with, that quiet feeling that something doesn't add up between what they say and what they do, that's not paranoia. That's pattern recognition, and it's about to be confirmed in a way you can't unsee. Because a smile can hide a lot of things for a long time, but it can't hide them forever. Not from the people paying attention, and definitely not from what's coming next. There's a particular kind of tired that comes from being the only one who seems to notice the gap between someone's words and their energy. You've sat in it more than once, replaying a conversation afterward, trying to figure out why something that sounded so kind left you feeling so strange. That replay isn't overthinking. It's your instincts doing exactly what they're built to do, picking up on the mismatch between a rehearsed line and a real feeling. And the more your glow-up has grown, the more that mismatch has started showing up, because a performance held over months eventually gets tired, and tired performances slip. Number 2. Why your glow-up cracked something in them they can't explain. They didn't hate the old you. They just needed you to stay exactly where you were so they could keep feeling ahead. Here's a truth that's uncomfortable but necessary. Some people don't actually want you to fail. They just need you to stay still. Your glow-up wasn't a threat because it made you better than them in some competition nobody agreed to enter. It was a threat because it moved the finish line they'd quietly been measuring themselves against for years. As long as you were exactly where you'd always been, they got to feel like they were ahead without doing anything to earn it. The second you started changing, that comfortable illusion cracked, and it cracked without their permission. Think about it like two plants in the same patch of soil. For a long time, they both stayed roughly the same height, and nobody paid much attention to who was taller. Then one plant starts reaching for the light in a way it never used to, growing steadier, growing stronger, growing visibly. The other plant doesn't get smaller. It just suddenly looks smaller, standing next to something that's finally doing what it was always capable of. That contrast, chosen one, that's what broke something in them. Not your success alone, but what your success revealed about the space between where they are and where they thought they'd always safely be compared to you. That's why the compliments started sounding strange. I liked the old you better, dressed up as nostalgia. Don't let it change you, dressed up as concern. Just be careful you don't get full of yourself, dressed up as wisdom. None of that was really about you. It was about them trying to slow your growth down to a pace that didn't make their own stillness so obvious. You might ask yourself, why does my progress bother someone who claims to love me? Because love without security breeds comparison, and comparison always resents movement it didn't choose for itself. They weren't scared you'd forget them. They were scared you'd outgrow the version of the relationship where they got to feel comfortable. And chosen one, that fear, however they dress it up, is the real reason behind every strange reaction you've gotten to your own growth. It was never really about you changing. It was about what your change made them feel about themselves. There's also a quieter piece of this that rarely gets said out loud. Some people build their entire identity on being the steady one, the composed one, the one who has it together while everyone else is figuring things out. Your glow-up doesn't just close a gap between you and them. It disturbs the whole hierarchy they built their self-image on. And people protect a threatened identity a lot harder than they protect an honest friendship, which is exactly why the smiles got tighter the moment your growth became undeniable instead of theoretical. Number 3. The compliments that were really quiet insults. They learned a long time ago that the fastest way to cut someone is to smile while they do it. Let's name this clearly, because for too long you've probably let it slide without calling it what it is. A compliment wrapped around a jab is still a jab. You're glowing. Did you get work done? You look so different, in a good way, I guess. Wow, confidence looks good on you. That's new. Each one sounds like praise on the surface. Each one is actually a quiet way of saying, I noticed, and I don't fully like it, but I don't want to say that out loud, so I'll bury it under something that sounds nice enough to get away with. Imagine handing someone a gift box wrapped beautifully, ribbon and all, and inside is something small and sharp, designed to sting the second they reach in. That's what these comments are. Pretty on the outside, engineered to leave a mark on the inside. And the reason they're so effective is that you can't fully react to them without looking like you're overreacting to a compliment. That's the trap. That's the design. They get to say something cutting and still keep their hands clean, because on paper, on the surface, in front of anyone else listening, all they did was compliment you. You might wonder why it stings, even when you can't explain exactly why. It's because your body knows the difference between real warmth and performance long before your mind catches up and finds the words for it. A real compliment doesn't come with a follow-up jab. A real compliment doesn't need a comparison to the old you to make sense. A real compliment doesn't leave you replaying it later, trying to figure out what they actually meant. Theirs did, again and again, because underneath the nice packaging was something they couldn't fully hide. Envy doesn't know how to celebrate cleanly. It always needs to take a little something back, even while it's handing something over. And chosen one, you've been collecting those moments without even meaning to, filing away every backhanded line, every strange tone, every compliment that left a bruise instead of a smile. That collection isn't bitterness. It's evidence, and evidence, eventually, gets read out loud. Notice, too, how those comments always seem to arrive with an audience nearby, never quite in private, always positioned where a room full of people can hear the compliment, but only you can feel the sting underneath it. That timing isn't accidental. Public praise with a private cut gives them the applause of looking supportive while still landing the blow they actually wanted to land. And once you see that pattern once, you start seeing it everywhere it's been hiding. There's also a version of this that shows up in the tone rather than the words themselves. The same sentence, "You look great," can be said two completely different ways. One warm and immediate, the other slightly clipped, slightly measured, like it had to be approved by something guarded before it was allowed to leave their mouth. You've heard both versions from different people in your life, chosen one, and your instincts already know which one is which, even on days you talk yourself out of trusting that knowledge. Number 4, they didn't want you better, they wanted you gone. This is the part they'll never admit, even to themselves at 3 in the morning. Somewhere underneath the smiling and the surface-level support, there's a version of them that didn't just want you to slow down. There's a version of them that, if they're honest, which they rarely are, wanted you to fail quietly enough that they'd never have to explain their own relief. That's a heavy thing to say, and it's meant to be, because pretending otherwise doesn't protect you. It just keeps you confused about why the people closest to your comeback have been acting like they're rooting for your collapse. Think about the moments you almost gave up, the setbacks, the slow starts, the times the glow-up stalled before it really began. Who showed up in those moments with real help? And who showed up with a strange kind of comfort that felt more like relief? Maybe it's just not for you. You don't have to push yourself so hard. I just don't want you to be disappointed, said gently, said with a soft voice and a caring face, but functioning exactly like a hand quietly pressing you back down every time you tried to rise. That's not concern. That's containment dressed up as care. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a pool, cheering for you to swim, while their foot is resting just enough on the back of your shoulder to keep your head under the waterline. From the outside, it looks like support. Up close, it's resistance with a smile attached. That's what some of that so-called concern has actually been. Not because they're monsters, chosen one. Most people don't see themselves as villains, but because your rise threatened something they weren't ready to face about their own stillness. They didn't need you gone in some dramatic sense. They just needed you contained, manageable, easy to keep pace with. And every time you refused to stay small, some part of that plan quietly failed. That's not your burden to carry. That's proof of exactly how far you've already come, whether they clap for it honestly or not. You might also notice how their so-called concern always seem to arrive right before your biggest steps forward and go strangely quiet right after your biggest wins. That timing tells its own story. Real support doesn't only show up at the exact moments it can slow you down. It shows up consistently, especially when you're already flying, and its absence in those moments says more than any word they've ever spoken to your face. Compare that to how a genuine supporter behaves under the same conditions. They don't need you to slow down to feel comfortable around you. They speed up their own effort instead, inspired rather than threatened, energized rather than emptied by watching you move. That contrast, chosen one, is the cleanest test available. Real support expands to meet your growth. Fear-based concern only ever tries to shrink it back down to a size it can manage. Number 5. The moment your growth became their mirror. Nothing exposes someone faster than standing next to the version of themselves they were too scared to become. Here's something that took you a while to understand, and it's worth saying plainly. You didn't do anything to them. You didn't attack their character, expose their flaws, or hold up a sign pointing out everything they never finished. All you did was grow. All you did was keep showing up for yourself, day after day, quietly, consistently, without asking anyone's permission to become more. But growth like that doesn't stay private. It becomes visible, and once it's visible, it becomes a mirror, whether you meant it to or not. Picture two people standing side by side in front of a mirror that only shows the truth. One of them has been doing the work, showing up, choosing themselves even when it was hard, even when nobody was watching. The other has been standing still, telling themselves stories about why now isn't the right time. When you stand next to someone who's actually moving, chosen one, it becomes almost impossible for the one standing still to avoid seeing exactly how still they've been. That's not cruelty on your part. That's just what growth does. It reveals contrast whether anyone asked for the comparison or not. And that's exactly why some of them started pulling away right as you started shining. Not because you changed toward them, because your change made their own stagnation impossible to ignore whenever you were in the room. Ever wonder why certain people suddenly got quiet, distant, a little cold, right around the time your life started visibly improving? It's rarely about something you did. It's about what your presence started reflecting back at them. They didn't want to keep looking in that mirror, so instead of doing their own work, some of them decided it would be easier to resent the mirror itself. That resentment, chosen one, was never a verdict on your worth. It was a confession about the space between who they are and who they secretly wish they'd become. That's the part that should sit with you the longest. A mirror doesn't choose what it reflects. It simply shows what's already there. You never forced anyone to look at themselves differently. You just kept living honestly. And honesty, when it's visible enough, has a way of making everyone standing nearby confront their own reflection, whether they were ready for it or not. Now here's what I need you to do before we go any deeper into this, because what's coming next is where the mask actually starts slipping in public. Drop a 77 in the comments right now if you've ever caught someone's face change the second they realized your glow-up wasn't slowing down. That number isn't random. It's your signal that you're still here, still watching, still ready for the exposure that's already in motion. And if this message is landing somewhere real in you, consider dropping a super thanks to keep messages like this one reaching the chosen ones who need to hear it next. Now, let's keep going. Number 6. Why they started watching you closer than ever. They stopped trying to slow you down and started trying to study you instead. And that shift alone tells you everything. There's a specific moment in a story like this where the strategy changes. At first, the people around you tried direct methods. the subtle discouragement, the backhanded comments, the quiet attempts to keep you at their pace. When none of that works, when you keep glowing anyway, keep showing up anyway, keep becoming more anyway, something in them shifts from resistance to observation. They stop trying to stop you, and they start trying to understand you instead, because on some level, they know they've already lost the ability to control the outcome. You've probably noticed it. The way certain people started asking more questions about your routine, your choices, your new habits, not out of genuine curiosity, but out of something closer to reconnaissance. They wanted to know what you were doing differently, not always to celebrate it, but sometimes to quietly copy it, other times just to keep tabs on how far ahead you were pulling. Imagine a runner who spent years assuming they were naturally faster than everyone around them, only to glance over their shoulder mid-race and realize someone they never took seriously has suddenly closed the gap. That runner doesn't keep running the same way. They start checking over their shoulder constantly, pace thrown off, focus split between the finish line and the person catching up. That's what's been happening around you, chosen one, even if nobody said it out loud. Your consistency became something they couldn't stop watching, because it disrupted every story they'd told themselves about how this was supposed to go. And here's the part that should sit with you for a second. People don't study things they've written off. They study things they're worried about. Every extra glance, every strange question, every moment someone lingered a little too long on your success, that wasn't disinterest. That was concern dressed up as curiosity. Because deep down, they already sensed what was coming. They just didn't have a name for it yet. You do now. It's called exposure, and it's already begun. There's a specific tell worth watching for here, chosen one. The moment someone stops asking how you're doing and starts asking exactly what you're doing, step by step, method by method, that's the shift from care to surveillance. It's a small change in phrasing that carries a large change in intent, and once you catch it, you can't unhear it in every conversation that follows. You might also notice how these questions rarely lead anywhere. They ask, you answer, and then nothing happens with the information. No follow-up, no attempt to apply what they learned, no real curiosity beyond the initial extraction. That's another marker worth filing away. Genuine curiosity tends to act on what it learns. Surveillance just tends to watch, quietly, from a safe enough distance that it never has to admit what it's actually doing. Number 7. The silence in the group chat that says everything. Nothing exposes a fake smile faster than the silence that follows real good news. You know this pattern, chosen one, even if you've never said it out loud. Something good happens in your life. A win, a milestone, a moment worth celebrating. You share it, quietly or openly, and then you watch the room. Some people respond immediately, genuinely, without needing to be prompted twice. And then there are the others, the ones who take just a little too long to react. The ones whose message arrives after everyone else has already celebrated, almost like they were waiting to see how it landed before deciding how to respond. That delay is data, and you've been collecting it for longer than you realized. Picture a group chat lighting up the second someone shares good news. Message after message stacking on top of each other. Hearts and exclamation points and genuine excitement flooding in. And then there's the one name that stays gray, stays quiet, stays absent, until enough time has passed that silence would start to look suspicious. Then, almost reluctantly, a short message finally appears. Nice, congrats. 2 words where everyone else gave paragraphs. That's not busyness. That's reluctance, wearing the costume of casualness. You might tell yourself you're reading too much into it. You're not. People make time for what excites them. They don't make time for what unsettles them, and your growth, chosen one, has been unsettling certain people for a while now. The silence isn't empty, it's loaded. It's the sound of someone trying to figure out how to respond to something they didn't want to happen. At least not yet. Not this fast. Not this visibly. And every time that silence shows up right where celebration should be, it adds one more piece to a picture that's already forming clearly in your mind. You're not imagining the coldness, you're finally naming it. Pay attention also to what happens after the silence breaks. Sometimes the delayed reply comes wrapped in a question meant to deflate the moment. That's cool, but is it actually official yet? A real supporter doesn't need to poke holes in your joy before they'll agree to share in it. Someone protecting their own comfort does, every single time. Number 8. Every "I'm proud of you" that meant the opposite. Some sentences are used so often as camouflage that people forget they're supposed to mean something. I'm proud of you. 4 words that should feel warm, should feel steady, should feel like solid ground under your feet. Except when they come from certain people in your life, they don't land that way at all. They land flat. They land rehearsed. They land like something said because the moment demanded it, not because the feeling actually existed behind it. You felt that difference, chosen one, even if you couldn't always explain it. A real "I'm proud of you" doesn't need extra words attached to soften its own meaning. A fake one almost always does. Listen closely to how it's phrased next time. I'm proud of you. I guess I just worry sometimes. I'm proud of you, but don't forget where you came from. I'm proud of you. I just hope this isn't a phase. Each version quietly cancels itself out before it finishes the sentence. That's not pride. That's discomfort wearing pride's clothing, because open jealousy would be too obvious, too easy to call out, too costly to their own image. So instead, it gets folded into something that sounds supportive on the surface while doing the opposite underneath. Imagine a warm blanket that's actually been left out in the cold. From a distance, it looks exactly like comfort. The moment you actually wrap it around yourself, you realize it's not providing any real warmth at all. That's what those hollow compliments have been. Something that looks like support from far away and feels like nothing up close. And here's the important part. You're allowed to notice the difference. You're allowed to stop accepting a cold blanket just because it's shaped like a warm one. Every one of those hollow phrases has been quietly logged somewhere inside you. And that log isn't bitterness, chosen one. It's clarity. And clarity is exactly what's about to be confirmed for everyone else too. The cruelest version of this sentence is the one that arrives with a sigh attached, a small exhale before the words even start, as if being proud of you costs them something to say out loud. You were never meant to notice that sigh. You noticed it anyway, and that noticing has never once been wrong. It's worth remembering, chosen one, that real pride doesn't need to be extracted or prompted. It doesn't wait for you to bring up your own win before it shows itself. It arrives on its own, unprompted, sometimes even before you've had the chance to fully celebrate it yourself. Anyone who needs to be reminded to be proud of you was never proud of you in the first place. They were simply managing the optics of appearing to be. Number 9. The mask that only cracks when no one's clapping. Watch what people do the moment they think the spotlight isn't on them anymore. That's where the truth always lives. There's a version of everyone that shows up when they know they're being watched, and a different version that shows up when they think nobody's paying attention. For a long time, the people around you have been careful to keep those two versions separate, performing warmth in public, letting something colder slip out in private. But masks like that are exhausting to maintain, and exhausted masks eventually crack at the exact moments people least expect an audience. Think about the small slips, the eye roll caught just a half second too late, the sarcastic comment made under their breath, meant to be private, overheard anyway, the conversation with someone else about you that wasn't supposed to reach your ears but somehow always finds its way back. Those aren't accidents, chosen one. Those are the cracks in a performance that's been running for longer than it was built to last. A mask worn constantly starts to slip exactly where the wearer stops paying close enough attention, because maintaining a fake version of support around someone's real success takes more energy than most people can sustain forever. Picture an actor who's played the same supportive role in front of an audience for months. Note perfect, convincing, applause every time. Then one night, they think the curtain's already closed, they think the lights are off, they think nobody's still in their seat. And in that unguarded moment, their real face shows up, the one the performance was built to hide. That's what's been happening around you in small, quiet, accumulating ways. And the people who eventually see those unguarded moments, chosen one, they don't unsee them. Every crack becomes part of a picture other people are starting to notice too, whether the mask wearer realizes it or not. What makes this stage so revealing is that it's never one dramatic slip that gives someone away. It's the accumulation, the fifth eye roll, the third overheard comment, the second time a mutual friend says, "Actually, now that you mention it." One slip is an accident. A pattern of slips is a character reveal happening in slow motion. And here's the part that makes it impossible to walk back once it starts. A mask that slipped in front of even one other person doesn't stay a private secret for long. People talk, quietly, carefully, comparing what they've noticed with what someone else has noticed. And every comparison adds another thread to a pattern that's no longer just your observation. It becomes a shared one, and shared observations carry a weight that a single person's suspicion never quite manages on its own. Number 10. Why karma doesn't ask for their permission. They think enough time has passed that they got away with it. Time was never on their side, it was just quiet. Here's something that needed to be said clearly by now. Karma doesn't operate on their timeline, and it definitely doesn't check in with them before it moves. For a while, it might look like nothing's coming. It might look like the backhanded comments and the cold silences and the fake pride just quietly disappear into the past with no consequence attached. But nothing that gets built on jealousy and performance stays standing forever, chosen one, because eventually the weight of maintaining a lie that big becomes too heavy to keep carrying without something giving way. Imagine a dam holding back water that keeps rising, day after day, month after month, with no release valve anywhere in sight. From the outside, everything looks fine. The structure holds. Nothing seems urgent. But pressure like that doesn't disappear just because it isn't visible yet. It accumulates, quietly, patiently, until the moment the dam simply can't hold anymore. That's what's been happening with every fake smile, every hollow compliment, every quiet resentment they thought they were successfully hiding. None of it vanished, all of it accumulated. You might ask yourself why this hasn't already caught up with them if it's been building for so long. Because karma isn't rushed, and it isn't loud until the exact moment it needs to be. It waits for the pressure to reach a point where the release can't be ignored, explained away, or quietly managed anymore. And chosen one, that pressure has been building around them for a while now, in ways they haven't fully clocked yet. They think their timing has been safe. What they don't understand is that karma was never late. It was simply waiting for the moment when exposure would land the hardest. And that moment is closer than they think. There's a strange comfort in understanding this properly. It means you were never meant to force the reveal yourself, never meant to confront, expose, or demand an apology to make things right. The dam breaks on its own schedule, not yours, and your only job this entire time was to keep living honestly while the pressure did what pressure always eventually does. Number 11. The receipts they didn't know were being kept. Nothing terrifies someone who's been performing this long more than realizing the whole thing was being recorded. Here's a truth that should unsettle anyone who's been smiling through gritted teeth for months. Every backhanded comment, every strange silence, every fake round of applause, none of it disappeared into thin air. It's been noticed, remembered, and in some cases, quietly documented, whether through screenshots, through conversations with other people who saw the same pattern, or simply through the sharp, undeniable memory of someone who was paying far closer attention than they ever gave credit for. Picture someone who's been telling a carefully edited version of events for months, confident that nobody's checking the details closely enough to catch the inconsistencies. Then imagine the moment someone else quietly pulls out the full picture, timestamps and all, and lays it next to the story they'd been telling. The gap between the two versions doesn't need commentary. It speaks for itself, loudly, immediately, in a way no amount of smiling can talk its way back out of. That's exactly the position they're about to be in. They assumed their performance was airtight because nobody had called it out directly yet. But silence isn't the same as ignorance, chosen one. Some of the people around you have been quietly clocking every inconsistency between their public praise and their private behavior, and that kind of pattern doesn't stay buried forever. Eventually, someone connects it out loud, in a room, in a conversation, in a way that can't be brushed off as coincidence anymore. And when that happens, every fake compliment they ever gave you becomes part of a story that no longer makes them look supportive. It makes them look exactly like what they've been the whole time. Here's the part that should feel almost freeing. You never had to be the one holding the receipts. You were too busy building, too busy growing, too busy becoming the version of yourself this whole story is actually about. The receipts got kept anyway, by other eyes, other memories, other people who noticed the same gap you did, and simply waited for the right moment to say so. That's the quiet advantage of never having played their game in the first place. You weren't screenshotting conversations, weren't keeping score, weren't building a file to use against anyone later, because your energy was going somewhere far more useful, into the actual glow-up they can't stop reacting to. And now the very thing you never had to chase, proof, vindication, a paper trail of their own inconsistency, is arriving on its own, carried by people who watched the whole thing unfold and simply refused to forget what they saw. Number 12. The room that finally sees what you've known all along. There's a specific kind of silence that falls over a room when the truth arrives faster than anyone expected it to. You've lived with this knowledge quietly for a long time, chosen one, carrying the weight of knowing something was off, while everyone around you kept insisting it was all in your head. That's one of the hardest parts of dealing with hidden jealousy. It gaslights you into doubting your own read on people, into wondering if you're being paranoid, sensitive, ungrateful for support that never actually felt like support in the first place. But you were never wrong. You were just early. Now picture the shift, a room full of people who've spent months watching someone perform pride and support flawlessly, and then one moment, one comment, one inconsistency too obvious to explain away, and suddenly the whole room recalibrates at once. The compliments that felt normal a week ago suddenly sound different in hindsight. The strange silences get re-examined. The distance that felt unexplainable finally has a reason attached to it. And once that shift happens, chosen one, it doesn't reverse itself. People don't unsee a pattern once it's been pointed out to them clearly. Imagine a puzzle that's been sitting unfinished for months, most of the pieces scattered, the picture unclear. Then someone finds the one piece that makes the whole image suddenly make sense, and everyone in the room looks at it and realizes they'd been staring at the answer the entire time without recognizing it. That's what's about to happen around you. Not because you forced the reveal, not because you went looking for a confrontation, but because the truth simply reached its own tipping point. And once it does, every person who quietly suspected something was off finally gets permission to say so out loud, and that permission changes everything. What's most satisfying about this stage isn't the exposure itself. It's the quiet relief of finally being believed by people who once made you question your own perception. You don't need an apology to feel that relief. You just need the record corrected, and the record is already correcting itself. Number 13. The exposure they can't spin their way out of. Some situations are survivable with the right excuse. This isn't going to be one of them. Up until now, they've had an answer for everything. A joke wasn't really a joke. It was just humor you couldn't take. A cold reaction wasn't really coldness. It was just them being tired that day. A backhanded compliment wasn't really an insult. It was just honesty you weren't ready to hear. Every single deflection worked because it only had to survive in isolation, one incident at a time, easy enough to explain away on its own. But patterns don't work like isolated incidents. Chosen one, and once enough of them line up next to each other, no single excuse is big enough to cover the whole picture anymore. Think about a wall covered in small cracks, each one explainable individually. A little settling here, a little weather damage there, nothing that alarms anyone on its own. But step back far enough, and those individual cracks start to form a shape, a pattern, evidence of something structural that can't be blamed on any single small excuse anymore. That's exactly the position they're walking into. Every fake smile, every strange silence, every hollow compliment, viewed alone, explainable. Viewed together, undeniable. And here's what makes this different from every close call they've survived before. This time, it's not just you who's seeing the full picture. Other people are starting to notice the same pattern independently, comparing notes, without even realizing they're building the same case you already quietly built months ago. Once multiple people arrive at the same conclusion separately, chosen one, there's no version of events smooth enough to talk everyone back out of what they've already started to see clearly. The performance doesn't just get questioned, it gets confirmed as exactly what it always was, and there's no smile wide enough to cover that once it's out in the open. Watch, too, how their explanations start contradicting each other under pressure. The story they told one person doesn't quite match the story they told another. And once those two versions land in the same room, the inconsistency does more damage than any accusation ever could, because now they're not defending against you. They're defending against their own words. There's a particular kind of panic that shows up on someone's face the moment they realize two separate conversations have finally crossed paths without their permission. It's not the panic of being falsely accused. It's the panic of watching a carefully maintained story lose control of its own timeline, and no amount of composure recovers that in real time, especially not in front of people who are already piecing the rest together on their own. Number 14. The ones who stayed quiet and thought that made them innocent. Watching in silence while someone smiles their way through hurting you is never as neutral as it feels from the sidelines. There's a group here that deserves its own mention. Chosen one, the ones who saw exactly what was happening, who noticed the same backhanded comments and strange silences you did, and who chose to say nothing because speaking up would have cost them something. They told themselves that staying quiet meant staying out of it, that neutrality was somehow safer, somehow kinder, somehow more fair to everyone involved. But watching a pattern unfold and choosing not to name it isn't neutrality. It's a quiet form of permission. Imagine standing at the edge of a room, watching someone else get quietly undermined, comment after comment, smile after fake smile, and doing nothing because the person doing the undermining is charming enough, likable enough, convenient enough to keep around. That silence isn't innocent. It's a decision, even if it never felt like one in the moment. And now that the pattern is becoming impossible to ignore, some of those same quiet witnesses are going to want credit for finally speaking up, as if their silence the whole time didn't help build the very cover the jealousy was hiding behind. You don't owe them a warm welcome back into your trust just because the timing finally became convenient for their honesty. You're allowed to notice who spoke up early and who waited until it was safe. That distinction matters, chosen one, and it's one more piece of the picture that's finally coming into full view. Number 15. The version of you they can never compete with again. This is where the story actually ends for them, even if they refuse to admit it out loud. Here's the part that matters more than any exposure, more than any moment of them finally being caught. You didn't grow to prove anything to them. You grew because you were tired of shrinking to keep other people comfortable, tired of dimming a light that was never supposed to apologize for existing. Somewhere along the way, their jealousy stopped being the main story, and your becoming took over as the only story that actually mattered. Picture someone standing at the base of a mountain they used to think they were racing you up. For a while, the gap between you felt small enough to close if they just tried a little harder, complained a little less, waited for the right moment to catch up. But real growth doesn't wait for anyone's readiness, and at some point, the distance between where you are now and where they've stayed becomes too wide to frame as a fair competition anymore. It stops looking like a race and starts looking like exactly what it is. One person who kept building, and another who spent that same time performing support instead of doing the work. That, chosen one, is the version of you they can't compete with, because it was never built for competition in the first place. It was built for you, brick by brick, day by day, whether anyone clapped honestly or not. And now that the mask is finally cracking in public, now that the pattern they hid so carefully is finally visible to everyone else too, you don't need to say a single vindictive word. You already won the only race that ever actually mattered, the one against the smaller version of yourself you refused to stay trapped inside. Let them deal with what their own reflection finally shows them. You're not shrinking back down for anyone's comfort ever again. And when the exposure finally lands the way it's already lining up to, you won't need to gloat, won't need to remind anyone of what you always suspected, won't need to spend a single ounce of the energy you spent years building just to protect their comfort at your own expense. You'll simply keep living the way you've been living, visibly, honestly, unapologetically forward, and let the contrast between that and their unraveling do every bit of the talking neither of you ever needed to say out loud. Number 16. Why they suddenly got close to people who never liked you. Watch who someone starts befriending the moment they can't handle you rising without help. There's a particular kind of alliance that forms quietly, almost defensively, once someone realizes they can't slow you down alone anymore. You've probably noticed it without fully naming it. Someone who used to keep their distance from a certain person, someone who never had much in common with them, suddenly starts spending time together, suddenly starts agreeing with them a little too easily, suddenly starts showing up in the same group photos, the same comment sections, the same conversations that always seem to circle back to you. That's not coincidence, chosen one. That's strategy dressed up as friendship. When jealousy can't compete with growth on its own, it looks for company, because a shared grievance feels lighter than a private one, and a private resentment is easier to justify once someone else agrees it's valid. Imagine two people who never had a real reason to bond, suddenly finding an entire friendship built around one shared subject. You, your success, your choices, your glow-up they can't quite stop discussing. That kind of bond doesn't come from admiration. It comes from needing backup for a feeling they know isn't fully fair on its own. And here's what makes this alliance so fragile underneath its surface. It was never built on anything real between the two of them. It was built entirely around a shared discomfort with you, which means the moment that discomfort gets exposed for what it actually is, the alliance doesn't have anything left holding it together. You don't need to break it apart yourself, chosen one. Alliances built on resentment collapse under their own weight the second the resentment gets named out loud in a room full of people who can finally see it clearly. Watch how quickly those same new friendships cool off the moment the pattern becomes public knowledge. People who bonded over quietly resenting your rise rarely want to be seen standing next to each other once that resentment has a name attached to it. The friendship wasn't real enough to survive daylight, and it won't. That collapse isn't something you'll need to cause. It's already built into the foundation they chose to build it on. Number 17, the guilt trip that was their last real move. When nothing else works to slow you down, the final tactic is always trying to make your growth feel like a betrayal. There's a specific moment in every story like this where the tactics run out. The backhanded compliments stopped landing the way they used to. The cold silences stopped making you second-guess yourself. The quiet alliances started looking exactly as obvious as they actually were. And when all of that stops working, chosen one, there's usually one card left to play, and it's the heaviest one: guilt. You've changed, and not in a good way. I feel like I don't even know you anymore. I guess I'm just not important to you now that you're doing so well. Each one designed to make your growth feel like it came at their expense, like becoming more somehow required you to become less loyal, less kind, less theirs to keep comfortable. That's not concern, chosen one. That's the last available tool for someone who's run out of every other way to keep you exactly where you used to be. Imagine someone standing at a door, arms crossed, insisting that walking through it means abandoning everyone still standing in the room behind you. That's the emotional shape of a guilt trip like this. It frames your forward motion as a betrayal of people who never actually walked beside you in the first place. Not really, not honestly, not without keeping score the entire time. And once you can see that shape clearly, the guilt loses its grip almost instantly, because you finally understand what it always was. Not love asking you to stay, fear dressed up as love, trying one last time to keep you from finishing what you started. So here's where we close this one, chosen one. Not with anger, not with revenge, just with clarity, settling exactly where it belongs. What you sensed underneath every strange smile, every hollow compliment, every silence that lasted a little too long, none of that was in your head. It was pattern recognition long before it became proof. And now, the proof is catching up to what you already knew. The glow-up was never the problem. It was simply the thing that made a truth impossible to keep hiding any longer. If this one hit exactly where it needed to, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, drop your 77 in the comments, and share this with the chosen one who needs to hear that their instincts were right the whole time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, and goodbye.